Hey, this is Hammer with a 9th Age battle report between Kingdom of Equitaine and Highborn Elves. So like many Bretonnian players in 8th edition, I waited and waited for an update to the Bretonnian book that never happened. And this was exceedingly frustrating to me and anyone who played Bretonnia at the time. So it's really satisfying to see active updates being done on what was once Bretonnia and what is now Kingdom of Equitaine. So like many players, I turned to other armies to compete in a tournament environment. So for me, 2014 was really the year of the Lizardmen. So I competed in 4 tournaments, was able to win one of them, and placed decently in the others. And I played so many games that it sort of burnt myself out a bit. So I enjoyed the games greatly, but just didn't feel like reporting on all those games on my YouTube channel. Then, of course, the End Times thing happened, and this was quickly followed by Age of Sigmar. And when I saw Age of Sigmar, I mean, really the worst designed rule set I could ever imagine, it just crushed my wargaming soul. It was extremely frustrating to see, especially after having painted 3 armies, having participated in a fantastic 8th edition community, to just see that all go to hell instantly. And so everyone in my local community that played Warhammer just stopped, including me. It just really destroyed the community. And so for 2015, I just didn't play Warhammer at all, just really forgot about it, just did other things. But this 9th Age project has really kind of breathed new life into my wargaming soul. I'm really impressed with what's been done already, and I just love the idea that updates can be made quickly and for the sake of balance. So I know that the Kingdom of Equitaine is currently kind of behind the power curve compared to other armies, but that's okay. The people behind the 9th Age project now can look at the tournament data and make changes accordingly. So I'm really not worried. So I've played 2 games of 9th Age prior to this one against the same opponent, as he's the only one that I know that plays 9th Age. And I played a traditional kind of all-mounted army and just got completely crushed. So in this game, I'm going to try a couple new options and ideas that I've never really fielded before. So going to deployment. Out on the left, he's got a Frost Phoenix. He's got a unit of 6 Highborn Lancers with a banner. He's got an Eagle over there. More towards the center, he's got a unit of Lion Guard with his general. So his general knows all the signature spells, which is more powerful than it used to be, considering the difference between a level 1 and level 4 is not so great anymore. His general also has a 1-up rerollable. He's got a great weapon that gives additional -1 to armor saves. And he's got a 10-point item called the Shard of Senran. So this is 1 use only. Lets him reroll failed to hit rolls, failed to wound rolls. And your opponent has to reroll successful saves of any kind. And in return, he takes a single wound. So this is very dangerous one-shot item. So it can easily kill hero-level characters before they get to strike. And it's pretty likely to kill Lord-level characters as well. So center right, we've got a unit of Sea Guard, full command. And then a sizable unit of Wardens. So they're full command, and they have the AP1 banner. So Strength 4 AP1 is always dangerous for an Equitaine army. And he also has his BSB in the unit. And the BSB has taken the honor that gives the BSB a 4-up ward, immune to psychology, magic resistance 1, and gives the unit holy attacks. So for those of you that don't know, it means you have to reroll successful ward saves. So this is an extremely dangerous unit for Equitaine, and it's just destroyed me every time I faced it so far. So on the right, he's got a unit of 5 Knights of Frima. He's got another Eagle, and then he's got a unit of Queen's Guard. So pretty solid unit. They're upgraded to Skirmish and Longbow. They have +1 to wound, and they're armor piercing 1. So looking at my deployment out on the right, I've got a unit of 3 Grail Knights. I've got 6 Knights Aspirant with heavy armor and a banner. I've got a Catapult, 5 Yeoman Outriders with 4 up armor save. I've got 14 Skirmishing Bowmen, another Catapult, a big unit of 47 Peasant Levy with hand weapon shield, and banner and musician. And in there I've got my Grail Damsel. So I'm giving white magic a try. And I'm taking the Tome of Arcane Lore for an extra spell, so basically a cheap level 4. And then the Blessed Scripture to give my unit the ward save. And out on the left, so I've got my general running solo in the bottom right. Then I've got 30 Forlorn Knights with standard musician, hand weapon shield. I've got 6 more Knights Aspirant with heavy armor, banner, 3 more Grail Knights, 5 more Yeoman Outriders. And then 13 Knights of the Realm with standard musician, war standard, and my BSB is in that unit as well. So looking at the character build, so I definitely can't take as many characters as I used to. I think I used to run like 4 paladins minimum, but characters are just too expensive now to be able to do that. But individually, you can make your characters much more powerful than before. So my general's got a shield. He's got the Grail Oath, which gives him a static 5-up ward against everything. Gives him holy attacks and magical attacks. And also gives him an extra weapon skill. So he's weapon skill 7 now. Virtue of Renown, it's basically what used to be Heroic Killing Blow, except now it doesn't count against my magic allotment. So that's amazing. So that gives me room to take the Blade of Strife for +3 attacks. Crusader's Helm gives me an extra armor. Can reroll failed saves. It makes me immune to lethal strike, which is what used to be called Killing Blow. And I also have the Potion of Swiftness, one-time use for +3 initiative. So basically, you've got a general with weapon skill 7. He's got 7 attacks base, 1-up rerollable, 5-up ward. Enemy has to reroll successful wards. And he's got a 1-use item to give him high initiative to potentially Heroic Killing Blow, even a high initiative Elf Lord before they get to attack. So he's much more powerful than he used to be, but costs about 100 more points than the general I used to take. So the BSB has got the Grail Oath, which also makes him weapon skill 6 now, which is pretty solid for a BSB. It also takes you up to leadership 9, so that's pretty solid on a hero level character. Lets him kind of give leadership 9 to that Knights of the Realm unit, even if my general isn't there. He's got the Sword of Strife, or not Strife, Sword of Strength for +1 strength. He's got Dusk Stone, Hardened Shield, and Virtue of Daring. So he's got the 1-up rerollable 5-up ward, just like my general does. And the Virtue of Daring gives him D3 extra charge distance to the unit he's in. So pretty solid utility on him. So I designed this list the way I did for a couple reasons. So one, I wanted to avoid the perceived must-haves of Equitaine currently. I didn't want to take the Grail Death Star with the 4-up ward saves and 3-up ward versus shooting. Just didn't appeal to me. Didn't want to take the Royal Air Force list where you clear chaff and play points denial. Didn't want to take the obvious life magic and just Dwellers, his Phoenix Guard. That's just not interesting gameplay to me. I've never enjoyed playing an all-knight list or an all-infantry list as much as I've enjoyed playing a mixed list as well. So, here I've got a strong knight unit, lots of different types of anti-chaff. I've got some chaff, 2 types of infantry, some skirmishers, some shooting, some magic. I always enjoyed as a player the challenge of getting the specialist units in the right place at the right time on the board. That's just more interesting gameplay to me, instead of pushing something forward that's just going to win no matter what. I hope it's also interesting for my opponents to play against as well. So also both myself and many people in the Equitaine forums believe that the Forlorn Knights are pretty bad. They've got a very limited special rule. that only comes to play in a unique situation. They're not so good at fighting on their own. But I can't really criticize them unless I put them on the table and give them a shot. Also, I do actually like the synergy between the Forlorn Knights and a unit of Peasant Levy. So, the old problem with Bretonnia was that your knights would outpace your men-at-arms and they would lose the valuable leadership that you could provide. But with the Forlorn Knights, there's 2 infantry blocks working closely next to each other. They're both slow. They can form a nice solid battle line where you don't have to worry about losing that leadership. So I kind of like that synergy. And hopefully Forlorn Knights will increase in their killing and grinding power, which is an area where Equitaine is very weak currently. So I also like the idea of trying the Grail Damsel in a unit of Skirmishing Bowmen. So I've never taken Skirmishing Bowmen before. I don't want to risk putting the Grail Damsel in a unit of Knights anymore, especially with the changes to Steadfast. And we don't have access to the Stubborn Crown the same way we used to in 8th. So I think it's too much to risk, and it's always expensive to buy that horse for a lower level character. So I like the idea of skirmishing archers kind of moving between my catapults to shoot off chaff, and using white magic to buff their ballistic skill. So remaining flexible, but I think it's less risky that I'll give up the points compared to keeping that damsel in a knight unit. So going to the report itself. So these are my Vanguard moves out on the left and on the right. And going to Highborn Elves turn 1. So he didn't have any favorable charge on the right, so he moves up, as you can see, bringing his eagle up to threaten my catapults and back line. The center moves up his main battle units. So these are the 2 units I've had the most trouble with. He's taken them in both of our last games, either Sea Guard or Spearmen. And they've just given my knights extreme problems. So especially with the changes to the spears, having AP1 all the time, and then the lethal strike, and being an elf and hitting so much and fighting in that extra couple ranks is just brutal for knight units. So I haven't had an answer for them yet, and I'm hoping my infantry can at least tie these units up while I gain points elsewhere. So out on the left, he's got his unit of Lion Guard moving up with his general, and then his Phoenix and Highborn Lancers. Parks his eagle in front of my big Knight of the Realm unit, so I can't get an easy countercharge. And in his magic phase, he uses some of the signature magic missiles to shoot off some Yeoman Outriders. The 4-up armor save they have really helped here. I think they would have died if they were standard 6-up armor. And out on the right, his Sea Guard and his Queen's Guard combined do manage to destroy my other Outrider unit. So going to Equitaine turn 1, I make a couple charges out here on the right. Take my Grail Knights into his Queen's Guard, and they elect to flee to save the points. I couldn't redirect into his Eagle, unfortunately, because I was out of line of sight at the time before I made the failed charge. And also take my 6-man Aspirate unit into his Knights of Rima. So I just love that these guys can reroll their failed charge distance. They've got the devastating charge. It's just perfect for them in terms of being a specialist unit against chaff and small units like this. So I've got the charge, I've got a banner. I'm going to have 9 strength 5 attacks coming across the 6 guys. So I'm feeling pretty confident about this combat. More towards the center, I angle my bowman to face the eagle. And I take my level 3 out of the Peasant Levy unit and put her in with the bowman. And because, she was just there to give the blessing to the Peasant Levy. And, so they're kind of angled to face the Wardens. That's really the ideal matchup for the Hand Weapon Shield Peasant Levy, is to just tie up his alpha unit as long as I can while I get points elsewhere. So with the Forlorn Knights, I'm interested in seeing how they could fight the enemy Sea Guard or the Lion Guard especially. So it's the view out towards the left. So I ended up charging the Forlorn Knights into the Lion Guard. I needed a 10, but there was no counter charge I was worried about, so I went ahead and took that charge. He elected to hold that one, and my big Knight of the Realm unit had a chance to charge past the Eagle that was in front of them and hit the Lion Guard as well. And it would have been an easy charge, especially with the extra D3 distance from the BSB. So he elected to flee that one. I redirected my Knights of the Realm into the Eagle in front of them, and they fled as well. So here's where the Lion Guard ended up. So I think we forgot to take, we definitely forgot to take the dangerous terrain tests for this Lion Guard unit, which is significant because I think now dangerous terrain, you can fail on a 1, 2, or 3 if you're fleeing through impassable terrain. So that would have cut the unit in half, which would have been pretty important, as you'll probably see later in the game. And then I take my remaining Yeoman Outriders and redirect these Highborn Lancers. A view back towards the right again during my magic phase. So I get the spell off that gives D3 ballistic skill to my skirmishing bowman, and I get 3. So I now have ballistic skill 6 peasant bowman, which is just awesome because, I've always had to deal with this crappy ballistic skill 3 shooting as Bretonnia, and it's just nice to have the option to actually have high ballistic skill shooting, even if it's through magic. So through shooting and getting off a magic missile luminous bolts, I take out this Eagle. So now he can't threaten my back line and deal with my catapults, which is why I spent so much effort to take that thing down. And then in my shooting phase, I land 2 direct hits on his Sea Guard, and this is extremely important. So really need to weaken this unit down so I can actually deal with it. And the 2 direct hits really helped. I mean, it's a rare event. It's not something I can rely on, but it's good to see that at least, the catapults with their strength 3 can help against elves. Not nearly as devastating as if my trebuchets were still strength 5, though. Okay, and going to combat. So out on the right, this was surprising. So these Knights of Rima, they only have 1 attack each at strength 4, and he just got a lot of hits through, and I failed a whole bunch of 3-up armor saves, which was surprising. I think I even got down to a ward, and I made a ward. So I failed 4 3-up armor saves, and I only did 1 wound in return. But with the charge, the banner, and the wound that I did, it was a draw in combat. So that was a little bit disappointing, but I think it's still likely in most cases that I'm gonna win that. So going to Highborn Elves, turn 2. On the left, he takes his Lancers into my redirect and repositions his Phoenix. So his Eagle rallied towards the center, moves his battle line forward, and he rallied the Lion Guard behind that piece of impassable terrain. View towards the right. So I think I was just taking a bunch of close-ups because I'd recently been working on this custom table for home, and it's not done yet, but I was just excited to be able to play on it. So I think that's where all the close-ups are coming from. And out in the top right, so his Queen's Guard rally, but they can't shoot this turn, so I'm fine with that. So I believe he thought that skirmishing units could shoot right after they rally now, but we couldn't find any evidence for that in the rulebook. So he's probably going to drop the skirmish, considering it takes 3 points per model. And then out in the right, the only combat going on, so yeah, I continue to fail the 3-up armor saves, but thankfully I managed to stick. So on Equitaine turn 2, out on the left, I take my Knights of the Realm into his Highborn Lancers. So he elected to hold, I think, because there was enough of an angle that he would have easily just run off the board. So he's taking his chances with the 3d6 versus 3d6 after the break test, assuming he has any survivors. I also bring my Ground Knights up to zone out units coming past the building. And then a view from the far right, or I make a charge with my Grell Knights into these Knights of Rima to finish them off. So I'm very confident I'll win that easily. And back towards the middle. So yeah, here I'm just kind of playing zone control against the Frost Phoenix while my general's providing leadership to my infantry. And center right. So I charge my Knights Forlorn into his depleted Seaguard unit. And I'm feeling pretty confident about this. So, these are my supposed elite infantry against his core troops. I'm coming with strength 4. I've got the 4-up armor, parry, the blessing. I'm thinking, I can win this. And then with the peasant levy, I just move up in front of his wardens. I'm not eager to get into combat with them. I just want to minimize the amount of times we have to fight. So I'm going to let him charge me. And then a view towards the right. So I move my skirmishing bowman with my level 3 to the flank of the wardens. My goal here is to get a buffed up luminous bolts off. So that'll be 3d6 strength 4 hits, and he has to reroll successful ward saves. He does have magic resistance 1, so he'd have a 3-up ward save that he would have to reroll. But my magic phase was pretty bad. It didn't get anything off, unfortunately. Killed maybe 1 or 2 Seaguard with the bowman, though. And so after combat on the far left, I easily beat the Highborn Lancers, but 1 remains, so I decided to pursue to get those points. I know this unit is pretty much out of the game at this point. And on the far right, so man, his Knights of Rima, managed to kill my last remaining Knight Aspirant, and he's got 1 guy left, and he manages to hold against my Grail Knights. So yeah, that was surprising. And then towards the center, wow, yeah, I did not expect this result. So in my magic phase, I did try to get the extra weapon skill off on these Knights Forlorn. I think that really would have helped them, but as I mentioned, nothing happened in my magic phase. But even so, I thought I would be okay, but it ended up that I killed maybe 2 Seaguard, and he killed 6 of my guys in 1 combat. So, I was thinking, Seaguard spears, they counter cav, but, my infantry should do fine, right? But no, they get armor piercing 1 against everything. And they also hit like crazy as elves. So, yeah, I just got my ass kicked here with these Knights Forlorn. And yeah, here's an overview of the board on turn 2. So on High Elves turn 3, he charges the flank of my Forlorn Knights with his Frost Phoenix, and now I'm scared. He also takes his Wardens into my Peasant Levy. So on the left, he parks his Eagle in front of my Knights of the Realm, so he's just going to try to lead him off the board. Moves his Lion Guard back towards the center. So here's an overview shot of Elves turn 3. And so in close combat on the far right, so I failed to beat the Knights of Rima last turn. There's 1 left, but this turn I kill him. And that's great for me because I'm winning combat in my opponent's turn, and next turn I'll have an easy charge against the Queen's Guard. And after combat in the center, so somehow, some way, I hold in this combat. So Yeah, just barely remain steadfast, and I stick. And that's mainly because he rolled a 1 on his thunderstomp. So very fortunate there. So on Equitaine, turn 3, so I charge my Knights of the Realm into the Eagle. He flees and takes me off the board. So I figure no matter where I go, he's just going to redirect my unit. So I decide to just take the 50 points. So towards the center, I move my Grail Knights back a bit because the Lion Guard could see him. And then I charge my Heroic Killing Blow Lord into the flank of the Frost Phoenix. So very excited about this, looking for some glory. I've got the 7 attacks, weapon skill 7. I pop my +3 initiative potion here. So I should be able to, or at least have the potential to kill the Frost Phoenix before he gets to do any of his attacks. So I was definitely looking forward to this combat. And here's just an overview of the center. So on the far right, my Grail Knights charge the Queen's Guard. They're well within minimum movement, probably 6 or 7 inches away. They elected to flee, and I caught them easily. So I also moved my Skirmishing Bowman and level 3 around behind these units to cast magic where I need it. And then we go to combat, and huge disaster. So general whiffs. I actually get 4 hits through, but I don't roll the 6, and maybe that even wouldn't have been enough because it's now D3 plus 2, so it's not really guaranteed. He runs down my Forlorn Knights, and this is on my turn, so this is really bad. So the Frost Phoenix is going to easily be able to charge my general, and then the Sea Guard will be able to charge the flank of my Peasant Levy. And with the new rules, they'll easily be able to break Steadfast, and that unit will get run down as well. So this was a critical turning point in the game, but there are some options I had to alleviate this, and I don't know why I didn't take them at the time. So of course, on the Elf's turn, he charges my general with his Frost Phoenix, gets an easy 325 points, takes his Sea Guard into the flank of my Peasant Levy, and after combat, they easily beat and run down my Peasant Levy. So in Equitaine turn 4, I'm just running away from his Lion Guard with my Grail Knights, try to save some points. And over here, so finally my BSB's unit comes back on the board. And I couldn't find a way to use my normal move such that I could escape exposing my flank to the Lion Guard. So I just wheel around and face him. And I wasn't sure he'd take this charge anyways because, even if he one-shots my BSB, I've got a lot of static combat res in the unit with the War Standard. I'm going to have the 3 ranks. I can now fight in 3 ranks with strength 4, so I'm bound to kill some infantry. Out on the right, my Grail Knights are trying to get back into the action here. And in my magic phase, so I cast a buffed up Luminous Bolts against these remaining Sea Guard. So 3d6 strength 4 hits. Between the Luminous Bolts and Bowman Fire, I get this unit below 25%, so I can get half points. I love that change in 9th, by the way, because it's just so satisfying that the effort you put into killing a unit isn't totally in vain if you don't kill him to a man. And then in my shooting phase, I drop a rock on the Frost Phoenix head, fails his ward save, I roll the max number of multiple wounds, and kill him. So that was satisfying to get some revenge for his breaking my center combat and killing my general. So Elves turn 5, I guess. He charges my catapult with his remaining Sea Guard and kills it easily. And he secures the center objective with his Phoenix Guard. So I forgot to mention we're playing the scenario where if you hold, you have a scoring unit within 6 inches of the center token, you get 20% of the game size in victory points. So we're playing 2,500, so he gets 500 victory points since this is uncontested. Then over here, so he actually does charge his Lion Guard into my Knights of the Realm with his General. So his General pops the Shard of Senrin, easily one-shots my BSB. And then his Lions go to town way more than either of us expected them to. I think he killed 5 Knights. My Knights killed maybe 2-3 Lion Guard. And he ends up winning the combat. He did get 1 or 2 magic debuffs on me as well. So he wins the combat. I'm steadfast, but I think I roll a 9 or something. And then I roll a 10 or 11 and run right off the board. So that was a soul-crushing defeat for this unit. I just really wanted to survive here, deny these points. But that was a surprising result. So, and the unfortunate thing is, I don't think he would have attempted this charge if we'd remembered the dangerous terrain tests earlier in the game. So on average, he would have lost half of the unit. And it was really the Lion Guard that swung this combat in his favor with the damage they did. So if he only had 5-6 guys left, I probably would have been just fine. So that was a bit unfortunate. So back towards the center. So yeah, his Sea Guard killed the catapult. And I had a charge on my turn 5 from my Knight's Aspirant against his Sea Guard. It was pretty easy. So I declared the charge, he fled. And then he fled close enough to my level 3's Archer unit that they could get a max distance charge against those fleeing Sea Guard and bounced them back towards my Knight's Aspirant, and I managed to take him out. So I get full points for that unit, which is nice. So Elves turn 6. Yeah, he's just moving his Lion Guard back towards my lines after chasing my my Knights of the Realm. And yeah, in my turn 6, there's really nothing for me to try to do. Well, I tried to drop a rock from my catapult on his general's head, see if he could fail his Lookout Sir, but he passed it. And yeah, that's how the game ended, with a major victory for the Highborn Elves. So believe it or not, this game actually went a lot better than the previous matches I played against this high elf opponent, where I was taking more of an all-mounted list. Yeah, I like the idea with men-at-arms tying up the wardens and forlorn knights, even though I found that they are in fact terrible, dealing with his Sea Guard. So maybe that'll work when they get some more damage in the future. In terms of deployment, I think one thing I should have changed is I should have swapped the position where my leftmost Knight Aspirants unit is with the position where my big Knights of the Realm unit was. So I think I originally put that Knight of the Realm unit out in the flank with the BSB because I thought, in that case, I'm not afraid of the Frost Phoenix or the Helms charging them. I think I have the static combat res where they're just going to bounce off. But, it took away the reroll from the center of the board, and it took away my alpha threat where I really needed it. I have the 3-man Grail Knight units and the 6-man Aspirate units to really fight those flank battles for me. And I ended up winning both flanks. On the left flank, I used my Alpha unit, and on the right, just the Aspirant unit and the 3-man Grail Knight unit did it. So I think I should have done the same thing out on the left. And then maybe put my General in with my BSB's unit to have a real scary threat for my opponent to consider. The critical decision that lost me the game, I think, occurred here in this picture. So, my Knights Forlorn or my Forlorn Knights, whatever they're called, have held out against the Frost Phoenix, and I have an opportunity to counter. And I only took my General in there. I was too reliant on the idea of, getting heroic killing blow on the Phoenix to win that combat. But I wasn't thinking, what are the consequences of not hitting heroic killing blow? And now that I've, read a few of the rules again, it would have been wise to take my Grail Knights into the rear of the Phoenix and the Knight Aspirant unit into the flank of the Phoenix along with my General. Because not only are they likely to get a good number of wounds through on the Phoenix, maybe even kill the Phoenix, but when you charge a flank or the rear of a unit, you get an extra combat res when you have a rank or more. So I would have gotten +3 from the rear, +2 from the flank, in addition to the charge. So I would have started out at, +6 combat res just by taking those actions. And I think that would have really helped me in that fight. And the charges were extremely easy. I needed maybe a 4 to hit with both units. So I think that was a critical mistake on my part because, losing that combat really broke the whole board. I lost the center, so I couldn't contest the objective anymore. And, my general got ran down. It was just a disaster. Of course, there are rules, considerations like not doing the dangerous terrain stuff that made a big difference in the game. That's part of learning, the new 9th edition rules. It's interesting to see how these new rules changes decision making. So he might have originally thought, with his Lion Guard, he can put them far out there and not worry about it, and he has a safety to flee behind the buildings. But if he was thinking about the dangerous terrain rule, he may not have moved them that far forward for me to charge in the first place. So, definitely a learning curve in terms of 9th Age. But, greatly enjoyed the game. Loved playing the Skirmishing Bowman. And, I'll try a similar list in the future, I think. So in terms of, hobby stuff, I'm starting to kind of get back into the hobby a little bit. So besides, trying to work on this new game board, also kind of trying to make a new BSB. I was just tired of my old metal Bretonnian one just falling over constantly and breaking. So I converted what used to be my General into a BSB using like an Empire banner and some banner from the Dragon kit and kind of magnetized it on the back. So I'd love to have some kind of freehand work on the front of this banner in black to match the army colors, but I don't know yet if I have the ability to do that, but we'll see in the future. And I'm still planning to get a new model for my General. I don't know what yet. So I've also been working on some Forlorn Knights. Like almost everyone else, I'm just converting them out of men-at-arms, using the big infantry shields and also using these big hammers from the Stormcast Eternals bits. So I hate Age of Sigmar, with a passion, but there are some good bits that come from those kits on eBay. So those are my Forlorn Knights, work in progress. And also double as Grail Pilgrims, whatever I decide to take. And then I've been working on some Grail Knights too. So one thing I've always disliked about the Grail Knights is they never looked beefy enough. They never looked like the real badasses they were supposed to be. So what I've done is I've basically taken Chaos Knights with the legs, the bodies, and the Chaos Horses, and I've added these Stormcast Eternals arms with the hammers, and then the big Stormcast shields, and then the Bretonnian helmets on top. And it really makes these guys look more intimidating and makes them look different than the standard Knights of the Realm. So they look like they can actually, bench press 600 pounds and do some work. So I'm planning to make these guys, versatile to be used as questing knights or Grail Knights. So I'm going to put a weapons rack on the back that has, a lance, a great sword, a halberd, because, with all the instant changes that take place with 9th Age, you just don't know what's going to happen. So I might as well just model every weapon on them and use them however I need to use them. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the report, and if you have any feedback in terms of rules, just let me know. Thanks for watching.